Welcome into Locked On 76ers. My name is Marc Farzetta. That is Keith Pompey right there. He's been covering the Philadelphia 76ers for damn near 15 years. We got so much to get into today. Tyrese Maxey, how much can he improve to help get the 76ers over the hump? Of course, if everybody's healthy. We'll break that down and more right after this on Locked On 76ers podcast.
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We do thank you for making Locked On 76ers your first listen every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Keith Pompey, my friend. Now, I just want to put this out there. I love Tyrese Maxey. Love Tyrese Maxey. I don't want people to misread what we're getting into here as if we are critiquing him like he's the one to blame for the last however many years of ultimate disappointment from the 76ers. But he, I believe, is the emerging star on this team. When I'm watching Tyrese Halliburton, when I'm watching Jalen Brunson, when I'm watching SGA, I am comparing Tyrese Maxey to these types of players, leaders on their team. And I believe, as we've talked about before, Tyrese Maxey has to be that guy to take the mantle from Joel Embiid as the best player on the team, because I don't believe Joel Embiid will be at that level anymore. And Tyrese Maxey has to be that guy to step forward and take ownership of who I believe is now the leader of this team. Where do you see Tyrese Maxey with how he ranks right now on this 76ers squad?
You know, I agree with you 100%. Where I see him as the head of the snake right now. I think for years, you know, it was always Joel Embiid's team. You know, when Tyrese Maxey first came here, you know, let's face it, he was a reserve, a guy trying to a guy trying to prove himself. And then all of a sudden he became, you know, the third fiddle behind Embiid and James Harden. And then he became the second guy. Right now, the keys have to be handed over to Maxey, because I feel like the 76ers will go as far as Maxey will take them, right? You know, you look at Paul George, you see how, you know, he had a subpar season. Joel Embiid, you know, you said he shot. I think he could be shot too, right? With that being said, it has to be Maxey. And Maxey has to continue to grow his game, work on his weaknesses, because right now he's the head of the snake.
Yeah, and you know what? I know we're going to reference this many times between now and when the season starts and whenever Joel Embiid will be ready to go. But when I say, and I think we say, and I don't know if you're on the same thing, Joel Embiid, I don't think his NBA career is done. I don't think he's entering an Andrew Bynum phase of his career or anything like that. I'm saying he's not the MVP caliber player anymore. Even if he comes back 100% healthy, I believe he's going to be a very good NBA player. I don't believe that he's going to be an MVP caliber player. So with that being said, I think Maxey has to take over and be that guy. So first off, just as far as Joel Embiid goes, that we referenced it, are you along those same lines, or do you think he's jumping into a Bynum-like end of his career?
I'm along those same lines. I think, okay. But the thing is, I think that the biggest thing for Joel is how does he deal with it. But I'm along those lines, and what I mean by that is, you know, everyone says that, okay, I can be that role player. I can do certain things. And then certain games I'll step up and show you that I still have it. Right. I think that Joel, that's the best role for him. Right. But at the same time, is he willing to buy into it? Because I just feel like he can't do some of the things that he did before. But as far as Andrew Bynum, I think that Joel can be serviceable. You know, I think that he can. I mean, who knows? He may still be an all-star type of center, but at the same time, I don't know with his health if he's going to be able to be an MVP, be all league, all these other things. But I still think that he's an all-star level player. Why? There's not a lot of good centers in the NBA nowadays. I mean, sure. You look at Karl Anthony Towns, they're trying to run him out of New York, right? I mean, they're like, get him out of here, get him out of here. He's the best center in the Eastern Conference. So you look at that, it's like Joel's still going to be amongst the best. But I just feel like in order for them to get to where they need to go, Tyrese Maxey, if Joel Embiid, you know, struggles a little bit, Tyrese Maxey has to be the guy that leads them.
I agree. Now, where do we go from here with Maxey? Because, I mean, we've, Philadelphia sports fans watched Jalen Hurts take this incredible leap in year 2 as a starter and take him to a Super Bowl. And now we obviously know the Eagles are a Super Bowl champion with Jalen Hurts as their quarterback. So I refer to it as a Hurtsian leap, but you could also refer to it as a Maxian leap, where you see a guy get the opportunity to go out there and run and really show what he could do. And the first real experience I had with Tyrese Maxey doing that was when Joel Embiid had COVID those years ago. And that was Tyrese Maxey's second year in the league. It was still in the fallout of getting bounced out in Game 7 against the Atlanta Hawks and the infamous pass to Thibault from Ben Simmons. And Tyrese Maxey had this 8 or 9 game run where he wasn't playing with Joel Embiid, where he was the guy. He was the guy in charge on the floor. He averaged about 30 points per game in that stretch, and he looked like a guy that was absolutely comfortable in running an offense and being the number 1 guy on the team. Now, that was years ago. I have seen him do nothing but improve once he realized he is that good. He does deserve to have the ball in his hands. He does deserve to score the basketball, even when he is playing with Joel Embiid. So what do you think the organization needs to see from him in the upcoming season, other than being healthy? What do you think the organization and the fans need to see from him in order to really take those reins as the team's leader?
It's crazy because when you look at it, initially I always said he can't defend, right? Tyrese Maxey last year, he averaged a career best 1.8 steals. He was amongst the steals leader until he became ineligible to get awards just because he didn't play in enough games. But
right.
To me, I think the biggest thing that Maxey is going to have to do is, like, late in games and stuff like that, when he's not on the floor with other elite players, teams tend to trap him, to blitz him, do all types of things. And, it's times where he gets a little bothered and he'll commit turnovers, or it's kind of like his level of play will become more tunnel vision. He doesn't get other people involved, right? To me, that's the next step for him, because, it's easy when you have, Joel Embiid on the floor and you have Paul George, you have other people, for you to, like, be able to take advantage of the little bit of mismatches that you get. But to me, I think, right now what teams are going to do is they're going to blitz him. They're going to try to get the ball out of his hands. It's just that how does he maneuver and do things? And don't be so one-dimensional on that side of the game when it comes down to that. So to me, that's not a knock. I mean, I think he's playing extremely well. It's just that I think, like, in those situations, he becomes a little bit more easier to guard. And I think that this summer, that's probably a priority for him in regards to maneuvering out of those situations.
So to sum it up, court vision would be something that he need to work on. I love that. And I agree with it. The interesting thing is when you talk about great players, they're always adding to their game. They're always adding to the arsenal. And how can they become even better? And I think Tyrese Maxey is just a great basketball player. I do want to see him continue to improve. I know James Harden always gets credit for it, but Tyrese Maxey was starting to get aggressive when it was more so his team than it was Ben Simmons' team right before that trade, right before he was traded to the Nets. He started to be more aggressive, attack the rim more, shoot more, take more ownership of the offense. James Harden came here, and of course, there's that famous shot there in Milwaukee with James Harden looking at Tyrese Maxey saying, thank you, after a hard drive to the basket for an N1 situation there against the Bucks. But Maxey had already been doing that. One of the things that he really did add to his arsenal since James Harden is that step back three. So when you see him continue to take steps forward in his career and add to the arsenal, whether it just be being aggressive and attacking the rim, whether it be outside shooting, whether it be that step back three, I don't see anything from Tyrese Maxey's game or work ethic, more importantly, that gets me away from the idea that he's not going to work his butt off to improve upon that in the offseason. Is that something you think the organization is telling him that he needs to improve upon this offseason?
I don't think they have to. Like, it's weird. Like, there are certain guys who are self-aware, even though they won't, admit it, or say that they have weaknesses, because you're not going to say that. But it just seems like Tyrese is the type of guy with his family. His father was his coach. His father played college ball, and trained him a lot. That they get into the lab all the time, and he knows what he needs to work on. He knows that he wants to be one of the all-time greats, right? He wants to be a winner. He wants to help the 76ers. So, yeah, I think the 76ers probably are saying, hey, these are some of the things that we want you to work on, but they probably ended it with, would you agree? And he's like, yes, I will. And this is what I want to do. So, yeah, like, he's just that type of guy, man. Like, he like you said, a hard worker. He's always in the gym to a point where they have to tell him, okay, Tyrese, can you just cut it down for a couple of days? Just go on vacation, relax and chill.
Yeah, I remember after his rookie year, Doc Rivers had that conversation with him, like, no, you don't get in the gym. You go travel. I remember talking to Tyrese Maxey after his rookie year, and he's like, I've never really traveled anywhere. I think I'm going to travel. Like, he talked about it like it was just this foreign concept. But, exactly. Hey, enjoy yourself a little bit. You know what I mean? Enjoy yourself, especially with that big, fat contract you got. A couple more things I want to get to with Tyrese Maxey when we come back. Not just what he needs to work on, but overall, how do you think the team gels around him? We're going to get to that when we return. This is Locked On 76ers podcast. And now it's time to tell you about Open Phone. If you're running a business, you know that every missed call is money left on the table. Think about the last time you had an urgent need, maybe for a plumber or another service provider. If that first person did not answer, did you wait? Probably not. You moved on. That's why you need Open Phone. Open Phone is the #1 business phone system built to streamline and scale your customer communications, all from an app on your phone or computer. Open Phone lets me manage business calls and texts on a single app. The shared inbox feature is a game changer. You got to have it. Your team can jump into any conversation instantly without missing a beat. Open Phone is offering our listeners and viewers 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/lockedonnba. That's openphone.com/lockedonnba. openphone.com/lockedonnba. If you have existing numbers with any other service, Open Phone will port them over at no extra charge. Open Phone, no missed calls, no missed customers. Keith Pompey, we have, I believe, lavish praise over Tyrese Maxey, but there's one more thing I want to get to with you about him, and that is, how do you take that baton? Because you mentioned it earlier. It's really going to come down to if Joel Embiid is healthy enough to play, but might not be at the level, and I don't expect him to be at the level of MVP anymore, but might not be at that level. But if he's healthy enough to play, how do you pass that baton over to Tyrese Maxey if you're Joel Embiid? Or if you're Nick Nurse, how do you assist in this? If you're Daryl Morey, how do you assist in this? How do you have that changing of the guard with the old guard still here?
It's weird. I think the changing of the guard began last season. I mean, and I think it happens organically, right? It's not that you say, hey, look, this is what you have to do. Remember when they had that meeting after that loss in Miami? Absolutely. And then next thing you know, Tyrese Maxey was the one who told Joel Embiid, like, they have much love for each other and respect for each other. But Tyrese was the one, because of his personality, who could tell Joel that. And then they could talk about it, right? So I think that, right now with that happened, you saw that Tyrese is like, oh, wow, he's becoming the leader of this team. Another thing is you saw how, you talked about the stretches of games that he played with a lot of the inexperienced guys. He was out there. It wasn't Embiid. It wasn't Paul George. It was Tyrese, and he was getting them involved. And then also just the work ethic. Like, you think about it, what did he do? As soon as the season was over, he and Justin Edwards are in Dallas, in his hometown, working out together, right? So I think that when you do things like that, it's not like somebody has to tell you, or Joel does it. And Joel sees it. Joel loves Tyrese. It's like to a point where, Joel in the past has said that he's not a morning person. And he would go into practice or go into the locker room and no one would speak to him because they knew he wasn't a morning person. It was like they just left him alone. But Tyrese always came over like, hey, big fella, how you doing this morning? Hey, big fella, how you doing this morning? So it came to a point where he realized, like, yo, this guy is a great dude and I like him. And you think about it. We talk about it. What does he call Tyrese? He calls him the franchise, right? So is one of those things where he knows that, look, there's going to come a time, I'm getting older, where this guy is going to have to lead us. And this is a guy who, unlike other guys in the past, that he doesn't want to challenge me to be the man. He respects me. There's not a competition. So when there's something like that, it's easier for you to hand over the torch, so to speak, because of all the things we talked about. You know, a great leader, a guy who has the respect of everyone, a guy who is not trying to stab you in the back. And let's face it right now, he's 24 years old and he is just young and can run and extremely in the prime of his career. So all those things add up for him to be the leader of this team.
Two quick things I want to get. Well, one, while we're on the Embiid subject, there's an opportunity here for Embiid to play a much easier brand of basketball than what we have seen from him in recent years. If he's, I hate to go back to the 90s here, but more of a back to the basket center. And I'm not saying don't ever let him square up and try to get a jump shot and try to shake a defender and get to the rim aggressively or anything like that. But if you're talking about Tyrese Maxey improving, as we did in the last segment, improving on his court vision, well, it's kind of hard to miss a 7-foot monster that's close to the block if you're looking to get away from a blitz. So Joel Embiid has an opportunity there to get some points right around the basket as a more traditional center. So I think that could be a benefit for Joel Embiid and also a benefit for Tyrese Maxey as well. But when it comes to this roster and it comes to Paul George and Joel Embiid, one of the things I really look forward to seeing is the speed in which they could play. If Tyrese Maxey's bringing the ball up, or even if you have Jared McCain on the floor with them, or Quentin Grimes on the floor, this is going to be a much faster-paced 76ers team than what we're used to seeing, because we're used to a little bit more of a deliberate 76ers team. I remember back in the day, they had the motto, run with us. It's going to be a little bit more like that. So I look at that kind of changing in the guard as well, saying, can Paul George and also Joel Embiid keep up with that?
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think Paul George will have a problem with that. I know he's 35 and people think 35 is old nowadays, right? But maybe in basketball terms. But I don't think he'll have a problem. I think the thing with Joel is just a matter of him getting himself in tip-top shape. Like Joel will be nice to see, Joel come back as a slender guy. Now, he did lose some weight in the beginning of last season when he came back, but I think that he needs to lose more. But yeah, you look at the roster and you look at guys like, you said Quentin Grimes, Jared McCain, he likes to push it as well. Justin Edwards, these guys, they're fit players. And I think that that's going to work out. And also, let's just say if they get Ace Bailey, I feel like he's a guy that's going to fit in well in that style of play. And let's face it, right now, yes, you look at the teams that are in the championship, the Oklahoma City Thunder, the Indiana Pacers. That's what they do. They get teams out of their comfort zone by running. And that's Tyrese Maxey's strength. So why not play to it? Again, I get it. Joel Embiid, you're going to have possessions where you want to slow it down and just feed the post. But at the same time, we're talking about right now, Joel not probably being the dominant player that he was in the past, and Tyrese Maxey is in his prime. Hey, why not feature what really benefits him the most?
So to put a ball on Maxey, is his next step a perennial all-star? Is his next step an MVP candidate? Is his next step an MVP? Where would you put his ceiling when you talk about Tyrese Maxey?
It's weird because when you look at Tyrese Maxey, he's gotten better, each season. I mean, his points going up. I mean, every year he's doing things better. I think right now his next step will be a perennial all-star. And the only reason why I'm saying that is because, I think that Tyrese Maxey didn't make the all-star team this year. And he could have easily. Yeah, Tyler Hero. But in addition to that, when you look at it right now, the point guard position in the Eastern Conference is stiff. And they're all around the same age. So it's kind of like it comes down to, personal opinion. It's very subjective, right? Because, okay, well, you look at it, you'll say, Tyrese Halliburton, and then you'll have Darius Garland. You'll have what's the dude, the Nova Nick guy? What's his name?
Jalen Brunson.
Jalen Brunson. I couldn't get it out. Jalen Brunson. So there's a lot of guys who are going to be thrown in there. So in order for, I think the next step for him now is for him to just prove to these people that he's a perennial, right? A perennial all-star. And then you take it from there, because I feel like he's always going to play at an all-star type level, but it's extremely subjective right now. It's going to be based off of, well, this team has more wins than yours, so we're not going to put you on there. And then there's a guy, like you said, Tyler Hero, who got on there, but Maxey had a better season, if you ask me.
Oh, yeah, I would agree. The other thing is, last thing on that is, I look at Maxey as like an MVP candidate. It's like when I examine just that question, because you ask yourself these questions as you're watching the season, obviously. I'm like, well, hold on a second. Look at the guys in the finals right now. Look at the guys that they can't beat in the playoffs. Like, as much as I want to say that, I'm with you. I'm perennial all-star. I would love to be proven wrong, and he becomes an MVP candidate. I just don't see it. So we're on the same page there also. Now, you asked me this question, and it's a good topic here. When it comes to position of need, we've talked a lot about Ace Bailey, how it's a perfect fit. We think perfect fit, and also a position of need right now for the 76ers. But biggest need right now, Keith, let's take away health, because every team wants that, even though the Sixers might need it more than most. Let's take away Ace Bailey, because we talked about him a lot. A position of need right now to the Sixers. I'm higher on Adem Bona than you are. I feel like in his second year as an NBA player, with all the experience he got last year, he was just hitting his stride at the end of the year. I think he's going to pick up where he left off. I think he is your backup center. I like the idea of Andre Drummond most likely exercising his player option to be either a backup or a third-string center. And we all know with Joel Embiid, you're going to need at least two more centers that can play. So for me, I want to see that knockdown shooter. I want to see something. I mean, look, a lot of this comes down to, as we'll say a million times till we're blue in the face, a lot of this comes down to Embiid and Paul George and what they got. If Paul George is going to be that 46, 47% three-point shooter, or excuse me, 43% three-point shooter for the Sixers, like when they acquired him from the Clippers, well, then you're going to be feeling a lot better about him shooting from the outside. But as of right now, I don't see Justin Edwards stepping up and being that guy. Jared McCain, I'd love to say, could be that guy maybe off the bench. Quentin Grimes certainly showed flashes of that last year, was really good last year from the outside. But I still feel like they need that knockdown shooter that you can have a lot of faith in to have the ball in his hands towards the end of a game to kill any run from the other team or start a run of your own. I think that right there for the Sixers is going to be their biggest need next year.
Yeah. Now, question for you. Eric Gordon, I know he's older and this and that, but towards the end, before he got injured, he was shooting around 50-something% from three. Do you have faith in him, or are you of the belief that, if some people are like, yo, get him out of here. Like, some people, they don't even count what he did towards the end before he got injured. But do you think that he could be that, or are you afraid of his age?
I am terrified of his age, especially after last year when the Sixers signed him. I thought, okay, well, that's the end of Kyle Lowry. And then Kyle Lowry was back. And I'm like, what are we, this is a senior center? What are we doing here? I had my concern there. The shooting was good. I remember he had the oral surgery during the year that knocked him out for a while. And then I forget what the end all be all was for him. His wrist. So he did have a good run of shooting. It didn't start out great, but he had a great run at one point in the season. I don't have a lot of confidence in him coming back and doing it again.
I got you. Father Time.
Am I crazy? Am I crazy to think?
No, you're not. I mean, no, you're not. I mean, I feel like he's going to opt in, though. I really do. But at the same time, it's just one of those things where they talk about they want to get younger, right? And then as good as he was at that time when he came back after the oral surgery and everything, he still didn't close out a lot of games. So that means the coach didn't have faith in him on the defensive end when it came down to clutch time. In my opinion, the thing that I think that they also need is And, I do like a Dembona. I really do. But I think that you do need some size, right? And I feel like with that second round pick, number 35, if a center drops to you, take them. You know what I mean? Take them and see what that is. And then I know having 4 centers on the roster is a lot right now, but we're also talking about a team where you don't know what you're going to get from Joel Embiid. And then you have Andre Drummond, a guy who had some injury problems of his own, and we don't know if he's going to be the backup or the third string center. So if you go out there and you don't protect yourself and all you have is a Dembona being healthy at 6'8", I think that you're going to be in a world of trouble. So to me, I get it. Is you typically you don't want that many players, but I think that that's a Band-Aid and somebody you can develop it, down the road.
Hey, if you're expecting Joel Embiid to play max 50 games, yeah, you're going to need a lot of centers. I think that's a pretty safe bet. Hey, speaking of centers, Keith Pompey, when we come back, there's a former Sixer cameo that I'm rather thrilled about, and I got to get your take on this movie. We'll talk about that when we return. This is Locked On 76ers podcast. And now it's time to tell you about BetterHelp. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. And let's talk about something that doesn't get talked about enough: men's mental health. There's this pressure to always keep it together, to perform, to provide, and never show weakness. But the truth is, real strength comes from opening up and taking care of your mental well-being. Every year, 6 million men in the United States experience depression, and many go undiagnosed. But talking to someone, a friend, a loved one, or a therapist can make a huge difference. With over 35,000 licensed professionals, BetterHelp makes it easy to find a therapist who understands you. You can connect from anywhere, switch therapists at any time, and fit sessions into your already busy schedule with just a click. As the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a diverse variety of expertise. Talk about it with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. That's BetterHelp, BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. I consider him, Keith, to be the king of efficiency. And he was only with the 76ers a brief time. But Boban Marjanovic's stay in Philadelphia will last forever, okay? I didn't realize this, and maybe I'm late to the party. He's going to be in Happy Gilmore, or he is in Happy Gilmore 2. Were you aware of this?
Yeah, I saw it. Somebody told me about it. Like I saw someone, telling me about it. I was cracking up. I'm happy for him. I'm happy for Boban.
I like that he's got this. He's got the goldfish commercial, of course, with his boy Toby, who we all know. Yeah. He's got the John Wick movies. He was in Hustle with Adam Sandler, if you remember. Yeah. That was great. And now he is going to be in I can't remember this guy's name, the character's name, but and I referenced this on the golf course myself. Is this your ball? It struck my foot. He's playing that character more or less. I don't know if there's a relation other than just the shout out to the former character. I don't know. But so I don't think I've ever asked you this in all the years I've known you, Keith. Are you a Happy Gilmore fan?
You know what? I was the first one I was. I mean, I like it. But I'm going to tell you, I got to share this with Boban. Remember Boban? People forget this. When Boban was with the Spurs and the Sixers were tanking and they put him in and he started hitting threes and stuff like that, and he got like a standing ovation, and the crowd was cheering. Like this was at the Wells Fargo.
Yes.
And they were cheering.
We love Bobby.
And I'm like, yo. And then like it was just like it was crazy because at that point it was like the Sixers fans were literally rooting for him to hit threes against the tanking squad. See, people forget about that.
Oh no, not me. No, we all loved Bobby. Oh my God, he was a great time. How could you forget anything by that guy? Anyway, Keith, always a pleasure. We'll be back with you fine, wonderful Sixers fans tomorrow to break down the Sixers even further. We got the NBA Finals to get into as well, with Game 1 tipping off on Thursday. And Keith, I know later in the week we're going to be talking about former 76ers and their impact and connection to this NBA Finals. We'll talk about that as the week goes on. His name is Keith Pompey. Make sure you're reading all this stuff on Inquirer.com. My name is Marc Farzetta. This is Locked On 76ers podcast. And don't forget, first and foremost, thank you for making Locked On 76ers your first listen today. For your second listen, check out Locked On NBA Big Board Show. NBA draft expert Rafael Barlow reacts to every workout, interview, and rumor leading up to this month's NBA draft. Find Locked On NBA Big Board on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Hit like and subscribe. We'll see you guys tomorrow.